speaking of treat, this segment would not be made possible if not for my dealer and his crew over at GilaposterKL. My dealer was kind enough to loan me his copy of the Zord Ascension project Mighty Morphin Dino Megazord, just so that we can have a combination segment for the ZAP Dragonzord. So if you want to check out what my dealer has in his store, feel free to check out the links in the description. He now ships products overseas, so I'm confident that all of you watching this will have a chance in getting newly released items. Remember to let him know that I've sent you his way, and now back to the video. And here you have the Dragonzord along with the Dinozords. Now I'm sure this does really take everyone back to their childhood era when they see these 6 Zords on the screen. So here's a short size comparison between all of the other ZAP Megazords along with the Dragonzord. Have a good look, because you're not going to see this anymore once we proceed to the transformation. We have a nice instruction sheet provided to us by Hasbro, so we can basically go through all of the tiny details on how we can form I actually forgot about the name of this form. As this is my second Megazord review, let's try to make a nice transformation sequence. First off, let's put aside the Megazords that we will not be using for this transformation. Let's get started. And here we have the Dragonzord in battle mode. Had to Google that name to find out. And just like in the show, this mode is more phenomenal. No matter how many times you've seen it before, this mode does look awesome. Even with the extra detailing of the ZAP Megazords, you finally get yourself a real grade type version of the Dragonzord in battle mode. With all of the intricate details included in the ZAP Megazord line, it really does make the look of the Zord pop. I especially like how Hasbro has taken the liberty to redesign the battle mode head. What they decide to do in this iteration is to number 1, mold the face of the Megazord, and number 2, put a clear translucent red plastic over it. If I remember correctly from previous iterations, it used to be just a solid plastic piece. In fact, it's actually molded as the Megazord's face. This new look to him does give it the exact same feeling that you would get when you see the Dino Megazord's face. Plus, this red translucent plastic does double as the eyes for the Dragonzord, even though you could rarely see it on camera throughout the entirety of this review. Now that he's in battle mode, you get to see how shiny and clear the red visor is. Plus, just like the Mighty Morphin helmet design, you get to see his silver lips. Honestly speaking, the process of trying to get him into this mode was very nerve-wracking. Not only do I have to be very extra careful with the borrowed unit that I got from my dealer, trying to navigate myself with the arms of the Dragonzord can also be a little stressful. As I mentioned earlier, those particular hinges aren't really that strong. So if you would like to combine it in this particular position, you really gotta be gentle with it. Not only that, trying to remove the middle chest piece of the Dragonzord itself is not enjoyable. Unlike the previous versions when all it did was just slide in between the Dragonzord, this version has its own clips. And the clips aren't durable themselves. Imagine if you were trying to transform the Dragonzord into this particular mode, or any other mode for that matter. You really have to take your sweet time in trying to make sure that you do not break those clips. Because if you do end up breaking those clips, your Dragonzord is gonna be like a senior citizen with a loose chest. Well, at least it will still be held up by its waist, so it won't look saggy. Speaking of the chest, we still have to make his dino staff. Just by following the instructions, it's pretty much very simple. First things first, you gotta dismantle the tail from the third ball joint area. Please be very careful when you're separating it. Take your hollowed out chest piece and place the tail on the peg. It's a tight fit. Take the included staff cane and peg that in, and then flip out the handle from the dragon chest. And here you have the dino staff. It's not like it's something that we haven't seen before, but it is a nice weapon. Especially when the ZAP version is taking a note from the SOC version by allowing you to separate the ball joints on the tail. I don't have the SOC version, so I wouldn't know. Just by looking at existing reviews online, this is how it was done for the SOC version. As for the legacy version, it's been a while, but I don't recall that you can separate the ball joints from the dragon tail, which leads you to having a super long dino staff. With this new innovation, we finally get a show accurate dino staff, which pairs perfectly well with the Dragonzord in battle mode. And finally, after 30 years of Megazord innovation, the Dragonzord in battle mode can finally hold the dragon staff. And it's pretty much in scale as to how you would see it in a show. No more extra flimsy accessories that we would have to use that would ultimately go missing, just like the 1993 version, or attempt to do some kind of camera trick just like the legacy version to make it look like he's holding the weapon. As for the SOC, I can't remember how you let him hold the weapon. Speaking of holding the weapon, we can finally use the extra hands that came with the Dragonzord, using the same method as you would if you were to change the hands of the Dino Megazord, basically a hand with a bigger hole. And since the extra hand is made out of a semi-soft plastic rubber material, you can have the Dragonzord in battle mode pick up his staff. And here he is holding his dino staff. And I gotta be honest, ever since I've seen the Dragonzord in battle mode hold the dino staff like a proper staff weapon, I've always wanted to recreate it in figure form. We couldn't do that with the 1993 version, but we can imagine. We couldn't do that with the legacy. We can also imagine. We might not have been able to do it with the SOC, please correct me if I'm wrong, but now with our latest rendition of the Dragonzord in battle mode, we finally can do it. And it took us around 29 to 30 years to achieve this. And that is truly amazing. Fair warning though, when it comes to posing a character that has a staff weapon, you really have to pre-pose the arm first before letting him having to hold the staff. The main reason for that is simple. One arm goes up, the other must go down. So that way you can have a perfectly posed Zord with a staff weapon. Another thing to note is that since he's holding extra plastic right in front of him, he might lean forward like Michael Jackson. He also has the propensity to make his own splits. What I mean by this is that due to the extra plastic that he's holding right now, depending on how you would pose the battle mode, you might risk wearing out the hinges in between his legs. Now, although you could blame this on the saber-toothed tiger and the triceratops, the extra few milligrams of the dino staff doesn't really help. However, despite all of the caveats I mentioned, the ZAP Dragonzord in battle mode does look amazing. I wonder how the other mode would look. And here we have the Mega Dragonzord. But wait, I'm not finished. The Dragonzord actually did come with 2 extra parts. Basically, these extra parts are known as vanity parts, where they are meant to go into these slots on top of his shoulder. Simply just clip them in, be careful so that you don't scratch the chrome, and now the Mega Dragonzord is complete. I gotta say, I really did not expect Hasbro to give us these vanity pieces. Mainly because the previous iterations of Dragonzord did not come with these types of pieces. But since the ZAP line is trying to do their own unique thing, I kinda appreciate these attempts to make these Zords look as artistic as possible. But no matter how artistic a particular Zord would look, there's always gonna be some setbacks. For the Legacy and the SOC version, due to the heaviness of their die-cast metal parts, it makes the Zord a little flimsy. However, for the ZAP version, since it's made purely out of plastic, you would think that it will make it much more sturdy. However, I feel that that might not be the case. Due to how the knees of the Dino Megazord has their own articulation, sometimes you might get some unwanted bends. Not to mention the extra added weight of the Dragonzord doesn't really help. Now that the Dino Megazord's shoulder pad is folded downwards, you can't really utilize the elbow joints of the Dino Megazord. And if you want to utilize the possibilities of the knee joints, fair warning, it's gonna be a balancing act. You just need to pose him to a certain sweet spot, and then he will hold his position. So take your time with your Mega Dragonzord and treat him like a newborn baby. Another gripe I have is that these vanity clips aren't really clips, as what you mainly need to do is to slide the clips in and basically let it rest there. Careful not to store him in high places, otherwise those clips will disappear when you lose them. But of course we still have another unofficial mode where you can see this particular Megazord using these particular pieces. They weren't really on the show, so it's not show accurate, but from old sketches and previous iterations of the Mega Dragonzord has these particular pieces included. We should include them here as well. Another fair warning though, since the ball joint on the particular leg, it kinda looks slightly bigger than the peg hole of the dragon tail. I recommend you removing the Dragonzord first and then only applying it. Guess what I really need is some lube. As for the other side, it's pretty much straightforward. And here we have the fully assembled unofficial mode of the Mega Dragonzord. Yes, of course, it is quite a pain to put the dragon tail into that particular peg, which kinda took me a couple of minutes. But putting on the centerpiece of the Dragonzord on the other leg was simple enough. From what I can see from particular fan arts, the dragon tail is like a new drill weapon, while the chest of the Dragonzord is like a shield or a shield that contains some kind of lasers. But what I'm glad to tell you is that you can kind of recreate those type of images. What I mean by that is that since you can rotate the legs of the Dragonzord, you can recreate certain kind of poses. It's not much of a difference, but it is very much appreciated. I mean, it's much better than just having a nice, pretty, artistic, glorified brick. So all in all, the ZAP Dragonzord is pretty amazing. Other than just having the nostalgic feeling of having the 1993 version, where the chrome is reintroduced back into the Dragonzord, you also get a lot of playability with the accessories that you have. Albeit, most of the playability would have to rely on the Dino Megazord. But if you manage to get both of those copies, you are going to have a good time. But for now, I'm just going to return the Dinozord back to my dealer at GilaposterKL, and I need to find a good place to put this Dragonzord. Perhaps you can see him in a follow-up video on how he looks like on the shelf. So if you like this video, blast that like button, leave a comment down below, let me know what you think of the ZAP Dragonzord, share this video with your friends and family to let them know what they're getting into, and consider subscribing, as it would really help the channel. I hope you like my approach to figure reviews so far, and do let me know how I can make them better. All of these rushed emergency reviews have been fun, but I really do miss scripting out my reviews. Maybe I'll focus on that next time. Feel free to check out my social media accounts, on Twitter and Instagram at KIDMTheMan, and feel free to visit GilaposterKL should you want to get anything early. This is KIDMTheMan, and I'll see you all next time.